It's so complicated, convoluted, chaotic. It's hard to actually figure out what's what, but it's becoming clearer.
Three law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy.
The rap icon the world mourned back in 1996 might not have been gone at all. Whispers say Tupac Shakur has been alive in the shadows for nearly 3 decades. And now, shocking new reports claim he's preparing to step back into the spotlight with evidence so explosive it could bring two of hip-hop's most powerful figures, Jay-Z and Diddy, crashing down in disgrace. This isn't just some blurry photo from a beach or a random guy in a bandana spotted in Havana. This is real heat, backed by sudden movements from law enforcement, strange activity tied to the FBI, and insiders warning the entire game is about to flip upside down. For years, the world believed that infamous Vegas drive-by was the end of Shakur. 4 bullets, a chaotic hospital scramble, and those chilling 6 days in limbo before the media officially pronounced him gone. But nearly 30 years later, the chessboard looks nothing like we imagined.
I felt like, they had a whole lot of potential. Jay was more quiet. But I mean, I learned that Jay was being quiet because he was taking notes. He was taking notes, observing everything, taking it all in, because, sometimes you around and...
While Jay-Z and Diddy wrestle with courtroom battles and headlines that won't quit, a rumor has emerged so destabilizing that the word comeback feels way too small. The story being whispered is as wild as it is terrifying. Tupac didn't just disappear, he outplayed everyone. He stepped into the shadows, not to run, but to gather evidence. The kind of evidence that could torch entire careers and ruin reputations forever. And if these new leaks are even half true, the FBI isn't just watching anymore. They may have finally tracked him down, not to lock him up, but to flip the entire game on Jay-Z and Diddy right when their empires are already cracking under lawsuits, indictments, and headlines that won't quit.
Jay-Z, I heard that no one really wanted to sign him when you was shopping him around the record labels. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was, I want to say, I don't know, 90, 91 maybe. We was, we recorded some songs, probably about 4 or 5 songs on Jay-Z, and shopped them to...
This isn't just internet chatter or some fan theory spinning out of control. These reports are coming straight from deep inside the music industry and even federal circles. The kind of people who don't waste breath on gossip unless they've got real files, receipts, and paperwork to match. Insiders are now whispering that federal agents have allegedly reached out to Shakur himself, or someone trusted in his inner circle, to secure ironclad evidence. We're talking documents, tapped phone calls, financial trails, and even old-school surveillance tapes that could tie Jay-Z and Diddy, not just to dirty business deals, but directly to the orchestration of the Vegas shooting that shook hip-hop to its core. And here's where things go from maybe to oh damn, this might be real. These same sources claim sealed evidence from the 90s, long believed lost or destroyed, has now been cross-checked against brand new intel allegedly funneled straight from Tupac or his people. Suddenly, the FBI isn't chasing ghosts anymore. They're circling in on who's been alive, silent, and waiting decades for the perfect moment to strike back. Picture this, Tupac Shakur hidden away for decades, silently watching as Diddy and Jay-Z built their castles of power, wealth, and untouchable influence. All the while knowing their rise sat on the same bloodstained chessboard that forced him into exile in the first place.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions.
For years, the headlines have piled up against them. Diddy drowning in legal troubles, human trafficking indictments, whispers of a shadowy criminal network running through his entire empire. And Jay-Z suddenly popping up in lawsuits of his own, scrambling to separate himself from Diddy's scandals, even as his name creeps into those late-night court filings. It's like watching a 30-year house of cards finally start to shake, and just when it looks ready to collapse, the ghost they all tried to bury shows up holding the matchbook ready to burn it all down. And here's where it gets wild. The Cuba connection. This isn't just some side rumor, it's the backbone of the entire conspiracy. Remember those whispers? The blurry nightclub footage, The Havana local swearing he saw Tupac casually buying groceries, the grainy YouTube clips of a man in a hoodie, sunglasses, and a goatee looking way too familiar. For years, it sounded like fan fantasies, people refusing to let go of their legend.
Boy, Puffy called me though. Puffy called me back in the day. He called me, he was like...
But then came the bombshell. Former bodyguard Michael Nice stepped up and went on record claiming he has audio and video proof of Fidel Castro himself confirming he gave Tupac safe passage and permission to live in Cuba. If that's true, then everything we thought we knew about Shakur's death becomes nothing but smoke and mirrors. And suddenly, the whispers don't feel like rumors anymore. They feel like receipts. Did Fidel Castro himself pull the ultimate double switch? A staged body, a fake death certificate, and a covert escape involving Black Panthers, payoffs to hospital officials, and a midnight getaway flight? Michael Nice swore it went down just like that, even describing handshakes on a Barbados airstrip before Tupac disappeared once again, this time slipping into permanent exile under the protection of a regime that despised the same American establishment he had spent his career fighting.
Let's talk about it, man. So you feel like it was bigger than Orlando Shooter Pac.
But here's where the real emotional gut punch lands. Imagine the betrayal Tupac must have felt. To suspect that men he once called brothers, the very collaborators who built empires beside him, might have orchestrated the hit that left him bleeding out on the Vegas Strip. And imagine the discipline it takes to stay silent in the shadows for nearly 3 decades, watching your enemies prosper, biding your time, and planning a revenge so devastating it could only work once every single piece of the puzzle was set. If these whispers hold truth, Shakur's disappearance wasn't just survival, it was strategy. He turned exile into a weapon, stockpiling what insiders now call a treasure chest of intelligence on the moguls the world came to see as untouchable. According to voices tied to old-school Black Panther networks, Tupac lived under strict protection, almost like a prisoner, but never without power. He traded secrets for safety, knowledge for sanctuary, and in doing so, kept the fuse lit on a plan that may finally be ready to explode.
As far as, is he going to turn people in? Is he going to cooperate? If the federal government wants him to cooperate and they're going to cut his time, because right now he's looking at 15 to life. With all the charges he won't get out till 70 years old. He about 70.
The question burning through every rumor is simple. Why now? Why, after nearly 3 decades of silence, would Tupac choose this exact moment to step back into the narrative? The answer, if the whispers are true, is as cold-blooded as it is calculated. Jay-Z and Diddy have never been this weak. Diddy's empire is collapsing in real time. Multiple lawsuits, shocking headlines about secret freak-off parties, and former employees breaking NDAs to spill what they witnessed have left him exposed like never before. He's sitting in a Brooklyn detention center, denied bail, facing charges so severe that not even his legendary bankroll can save him this time.
Yes, on your own platform. He said this on your platform that he put up $1 million to get Pac here.
Meanwhile, Jay-Z, once untouchable, the Teflon billionaire who floated above every scandal, is suddenly drowning in lawsuits of his own. Explosive accusations are now circling his name, and his legal team is scrambling to bury them before his image becomes just as toxic as Diddy's. For years, the two men played both sides, allies when it suited them, rivals when it didn't, always keeping the secrets of the game close. They never had to dirty their own hands, until now. And this is where the stage flips, with the FBI hunting new witnesses and pushing to finally close the chapter on unsolved crimes. The timing couldn't be sharper. Shakur's alleged evidence isn't just about revenge, it's about leverage, about justice, maybe even redemption, for himself, for his mother's legacy, and for an entire music industry that watched him vanish while the power players feasted. If Tupac truly steps back into the light with proof that can torch these moguls, it won't just rewrite hip-hop history. It'll set the whole empire on fire. So what do you think? Could Tupac really be alive, waiting for this exact moment to bring down Jay-Z and Diddy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more bombshell updates. See you in the next one. Insiders are whispering that federal agents are connecting dots across decades. Phone records from the 90s suddenly reappearing in fresh court filings, sealed testimony syncing up with mysterious old recordings that were never supposed to see daylight.
I don't think they are scared of him. I think they more so they don't want him to embarrass their reputation. And
Back then, the code was silence. Nobody talked. But now, with Keith D, the last living suspect from the '96 drive-by, locked up and allegedly ready to flip just to save himself, the code of the streets is crumbling fast. Add Suge Knight tweeting from prison about justice for Shakur, and you can feel it. The silence that protected the powerful for nearly 30 years is finally breaking. But the whispers don't stop at Diddy. They've started circling Jay-Z too, and this is where things turn ice cold. For years, the narrative painted Diddy as the ruthless mastermind, the only one bold enough to drop a $1 million bounty on rivals. Yet new claims are surfacing from old industry accountants, cryptic notes and investigator files, even hints buried in financial ledgers.
if that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're going to do it again.
Supposedly, records show Jay-Z's associates wiring funds to names now linked to the Vegas hit. It gets darker. Intercepted calls from the months leading up to Tupac's disappearance have allegedly been cross-referenced with Jay-Z's known movements. And the picture it paints, not of a bystander, but of a silent partner, waiting in the shadows, ready to inherit the empire once Shakur was gone. Could it be that the kingmaker himself, the man who toasted billionaire brunches with Diddy and rebuilt the industry from chaos, was secretly pulling strings the entire time? And these whispers aren't just bitter gossip from rivals or scorned exes. Former security contractors, ex-death row insiders, even a couple of retired federal agents are now hinting at unresolved gaps in Jay-Z's timeline during the Vegas shooting. The question hanging in the air is chilling. Did the man who rose higher than anyone in hip-hop history build his throne on a scheme far darker than the world ever imagined? The stakes have never been higher. If Tupac truly holds the evidence insiders claim he does, and if he's prepared to drop it in the Fed's hands, then we're not just talking about a comeback. We're staring down the possible collapse of hip-hop's most powerful dynasty. Sure, we've heard wild Tupac stories before, sightings in Havana, whispers about him at a Belize nightclub, even that infamous photo of him with Beyonce that looked like a Photoshop special.
And mad, still, that.
But this time, the context flips everything. Diddy's world is already burning to the ground. He's drowning in criminal indictments, lurid stories of freak-off parties gone wrong, and decades of pay-to-play allegations that make his empire look like a house of corruption. Some in the media have even started calling him hip-hop's Jeffrey Epstein, with his own Ghislaine keeping the books and handling the secrets. Meanwhile, Jay-Z is fighting like a cornered man. His legal team is working overtime, screaming blackmail, dragging accusers through the mud, filing motion after motion just to delay the inevitable. The once untouchable billionaire now looks like he's running from shadows, and the optics are brutal.
But I'm still
The two moguls who once stood shoulder to shoulder at Rock Nation brunches now look fractured, scrambling separately, and maybe for the first time in their careers, genuinely afraid. And here's the part that stings. Suddenly, all those old clues feel brand new. Suge Knight's cryptic interviews, Afeni Shakur's words about her son choosing to leave quietly, the endless posthumous albums, the Machiavelli persona, the strategist who faked his own death to destroy his enemies. Every single breadcrumb looks different now, every detail buzzing with new meaning, like the puzzle was always there, and we're only just putting the pieces together. Why did the coroner's report get basic details wrong? Why did the man who handled Tupac's cremation retire the very next day and vanish without a trace? Why did Havana locals keep reporting run-ins with a famous American rapper long after the world had supposedly moved on?
Now, I ain't trying to say that's some kind of conspiracy, and maybe some other shit was going on, or this, that, and the third. But brother, he had that conversation.
These questions aren't just rumors anymore. With the FBI now reportedly combing through every scrap of evidence, from old surveillance reels to payment logs to buried informant notes, the case looks less like a closed chapter and more like an open wound. The walls are closing in, fast. Hip-hop has always thrived on the razor edge between myth and reality, but in this story, the lines blur so much that what once sounded like fantasy now reads like a playbook. Jay-Z and Diddy, despite all their untouchable wealth and power, suddenly look like prisoners of a past they thought was buried forever in the Nevada desert. And somewhere in the shadows, maybe tucked away in a Cuban apartment, maybe just off camera, the ghost they tried to erase could be watching, waiting for the moment the empire that tried to silence him finally caves in. Now with the FBI digging deeper, evidence stacking up and enemies cornered, the question turns deadly serious. If Tupac is alive, if he really does hold the smoking gun, what happens next to hip-hop's so-called untouchables? Because here's the chilling part. If even a fraction of these whispers turn out true, the fallout won't stop with Diddy or Jay-Z. Word is, subpoenas are already circling. Whispers of managers, lawyers, assistants, even former bodyguards suddenly getting quiet calls or taking suspicious last-minute vacations. The net is tightening, and nobody who touched this story is safe anymore. Overseas industry veterans who once partied like kings are suddenly going ghost, wiping socials, smashing old phones, and cutting ties as fast as they can before the feds start knocking.
Down. That's one reason, other than the Irv Gotti that 50 was going through and the poison they was putting in about 50, he had to go elsewhere to California, or with Jay and not with Dre. And
the code of silence that held the game together for decades is cracked wide open, and everybody knows it. With headlines dropping leaks day after day, one chilling question hovers over everything. How many careers, fortunes, and legacies are about to be buried before the dust even settles? The dominoes are falling, and the collapse doesn't look like a scandal anymore. It looks like a slow-motion demolition of the empire that shaped the last 30 years of pop culture. Diddy, once the untouchable king of the all-white party, now sits in a concrete cell instead of his Hamptons mansion, staring down a federal trial that threatens to drag every dark corner of the industry into daylight. We're talking human trafficking, racketeering, abuse allegations, and that bone-chilling phrase, criminal enterprise. Every headline makes it worse. Diddy's name stamped on lawsuit after lawsuit, his legal team burning through millions trying to keep the flood contained. But the leaks won't stop. Each new filing sparks more panic, more enablers scrambling to cut last-minute deals, and more victims stepping into the spotlight. No one knows who's going to flip next, or how many sealed files are sitting in vaults, just waiting for the perfect moment to explode into public view. For a man who once controlled the entire culture with a single tweet or a shiny music video, Diddy suddenly can't buy himself a second of silence.
But tell me, man, why do you believe that Jay and Puffy is close, even though Jay's lawyer came out and said they're not?
because
The walls are closing in fast, and the king of the all-white parties is finding out what life looks like when the party's over, and the feds hold the guest list. Meanwhile, Jay-Z, long hailed as the blueprint for moguldom, is learning that even the tallest penthouse comes with a glass floor that can shatter beneath him. Civil suits are piling up, each one threatening to rip open years of guarded business records and private conversations. The filings alone are enough to keep any crisis manager awake at night. But the real nightmare is public opinion. Fans who once cheered every power play are now dissecting lyrics, timelines, even old photos, hunting for the moment when fortune tipped into conspiracy. Jay-Z's defense swings like a pendulum. One moment he cries blackmail, the next he scrambles to distance himself from the same partner he once called brother. But if Tupac's alleged cache of evidence ever comes to light, it won't just expose cracks in his legacy. It could blow apart every carefully polished version of hip-hop history Jay-Z ever sold. And no PR firm, no brand consultant, no billionaire brunch will be able to polish that shine back again. So imagine the aftershocks if this bomb drops. The two men once seen as untouchable.
Open doors, they laid the blueprint for me, and they're not here anymore. So I always want to make sure that,
Billionaires with empires stretching from Wall Street to the White House, suddenly stripped down to defendants in the biggest scandal hip-hop has ever faced. What do you think? Could Tupac really be holding the receipts that bring Diddy and Jay-Z down once and for all? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, subscribe, and don't miss what's coming next. This story is just getting started. Suddenly exposed as the masterminds of a betrayal that reshaped not just music, but black culture itself. This isn't tabloid gossip or another celebrity flameout. This is the kind of revelation that could erase entire catalogs from streaming platforms, force award shows to rewrite their history books, and send corporate sponsors running for cover. Decades of mentorship programs, charity foundations, and carefully crafted legacy projects could vanish overnight, replaced by the ugly truth lurking behind the headlines. And if that truth comes riding in on the back of Tupac's long-rumored return, there isn't a single label, award show, or media conglomerate on earth ready for the firestorm that follows. Even the so-called insiders who always bragged that they knew the real story are suddenly sweating bullets. Former road managers won't return calls. High-powered attorneys are whispering to the press that multiple celebrities are under active investigation. And behind the scenes, private jets are flying in and out of Miami and LA, packed with publicists and crisis managers who admit they can't contain what's coming. The old backroom alliances that once stitched the industry together, the quiet handshakes, the whispered favors, the "I'll cover you if you cover me" pacts, are crumbling fast under the weight of subpoenas and secret recordings. For fans, the whiplash is brutal. These weren't just celebrities. They were idols, kings, untouchables, and betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from the top. All roads lead back to one chilling idea. Tupac saw this years ago. His Machiavelli persona, the cryptic lyrics, the hidden clues in album covers, it all feels like a prophecy now.
Named Diddy 70.
Like the legend was warning us, preparing us for the very downfall we might be watching unfold right in front of our eyes. Exit Tupac, enter Machiavelli, flip open the liner notes of the Don Killuminati, the 7-Day Theory, dropped right after his so-called death. Even the title itself was a signal, a nod to Niccolo Machiavelli, the Italian mastermind who wrote about faking your own death to fool enemies and return stronger than ever. Was it just poetic theater? Or was Pac laying out a blueprint for survival? What if every track, every cryptic line, every late-night interview was more than art? What if it was a veiled warning to those who tried to silence him? The breadcrumbs are everywhere, hiding in plain sight. Lyrics dripping with betrayal, verses promising revenge, images that blurred the line between myth and reality. In one haunting photo, Tupac's eyes seem to follow the viewer, daring us to see through the illusion. Pair that with the rumors that never died, the Havana sightings, Suge Knight's strange confessions, Michael Nice's claims of audio and video proof tying Castro to the escape, and suddenly the puzzle starts to take shape. For years, skeptics brushed it all off, pointing to logic gaps in the official story, but the gaps won't go away. A coroner's report riddled with errors, witnesses who vanished into thin air, posthumous albums so prophetic they felt like messages from beyond. Was Pac leaving coded signals for his enemies? Was the entire Machiavelli persona a warning shot, a declaration that he wasn't finished yet? And that's the chilling possibility gripping the culture now. If Tupac truly orchestrated his own escape, then every single assumption about that bloody night in Vegas collapses. Was the shootout staged? Were the hospital scenes manipulated? Was his death not tragedy, but the biggest piece of performance art in music history? Or was it the last desperate masterstroke of a man who knew the walls were closing in? Even the loudest skeptics who once mocked the Cuba rumors are now combing through old footage, pausing every frame, hunting for the overlooked detail that flips the entire story upside down. And what about hip-hop itself? The legacy of Tupac versus Biggie, West Coast versus East Coast. It was supposed to be remembered as a clash of artistry, not a blood-soaked conspiracy buried under decades of silence. But now, with Diddy's empire in flames and Jay-Z's name dragged line by line through federal filings, a darker question rises. Were the very roots of modern hip-hop tangled in a plot far uglier than the lyrics ever dared to admit? Because it's not just about who pulled the trigger, it's about who knew, who stayed silent, who kept getting richer while the world mourned Tupac in the streets. And the silence today is deafening. Beyoncé and other A-list collaborators, once front and center at charity galas and award shows with Jay-Z and Diddy, are suddenly nowhere to be found. No statements, no defenses, just quiet distance. Those mogul social circles that once overflowed with invites, champagne, and flashing cameras have shrunk down to a handful of shaky loyalists. And the media, the same outlets that spent years treating these men like untouchable royalty, are finally sharpening their knives, digging through dusty contracts, uncovering payouts, and interviewing people who spent decades too scared to talk. The cover story is unraveling, and for the first time, the industry looks like it can't keep the mask on any longer. There's no handbook for surviving a storm like this, especially when the very legend you tried to erase might be preparing to return with receipts in hand. Insiders say the dread inside major labels is real. Whispers suggest the FBI is gearing up for a wave of indictments that could stretch way beyond Diddy and Jay-Z. Agents are connecting dots across borders, offshore accounts, and decades of dirty money, piecing together a puzzle that could drag producers, handlers, and even top executives into the light. The same people who once thought they'd remain ghosts in the machine. As one former Def Jam manager bluntly put it, if Pac has the tapes and the feds have the leverage, it's going to be a bloodbath in the boardrooms. And the fear goes way deeper than public embarrassment. Entire fortunes, built on illusions of invincibility, are starting to crack wide open. Every brand deal, every award show, every legacy project risks being tainted overnight if the truth drops. Which leads to the question that no one has an answer for. If Tupac does step out of the shadows with proof in hand, what happens to everything we thought we knew? Do Diddy and Jay-Z get erased from the pantheon of hip-hop gods? Do we crown Shakur as the ultimate survivor, or question the cost of 3 decades of silence? Or, and this is the twist that chills everyone, does it all turn out to be one last illusion? A final masterstroke from the man who blurred reality and myth so well that even now we still can't separate fact from legend. The FBI's renewed interest. Jay-Z's legal battles piling higher every week. Diddy's empire collapsing under the harshest spotlight of his career, and the whispers, louder than ever, of Tupac's return. Put it all together, and it feels like the stage is set for hip-hop's ultimate reckoning. We could be days, weeks, or months away from an explosion that makes the original East Coast-West Coast war look like child's play. Or maybe we're still wandering in the labyrinth Tupac built, chasing shadows, while the real answers sit locked away in a vault in Havana or sealed inside a federal safe house. But one thing is undeniable. The truth is coming, and when it does, nothing in this industry will ever look the same. So what do you think? Is this the final chapter for the old guard? Or is there one last twist waiting to shock the world all over again? Drop your theories in the comments, because the next bombshell could land at any moment. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep your eyes locked on this story, because hip-hop history is about to be rewritten, and nobody walks away untouched. Thanks for watching, legends. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone who needs to hear it. And trust me, you're gonna want to be here for the next one. See you on the other side.